I added all 2021 F1 drivers to a tier list and ranked them based on their performances this year. My name is Chris, welcome back to CFRacing and enjoy the video. Hello everybody, what's going on? It's CFRacing here and we're back with another Formula 1 video. This is not a simulation today, but it is a tier list. I know a lot of you guys like tier lists. Tier lists are awesome. I like making them. I like watching them. So I'm doing a tier list today of all 20 Formula 1 drivers who competed in the 2021 Formula 1 season, minus Robert Kubica because he only raced in, 2 races, so I'm not going to be including him. I know we did finish ahead of Mazepin in the standings, which is kind of funny, but we're going to be taking a look at this tier list that I made today, and if you can see, I put all 20 Formula 1 drivers that pretty much competed in almost every single race this season into this tier list, so we're going to be ranking them in a bunch of different tiers, I guess. It's a tier list. I'm not really too sure. But the tiers are almost perfect. There is no perfect tier because there was no perfect driver all season besides Mazepin. Then there was great, good, okay, meh, and stinky poopy. That is the bottom tier if you couldn't tell. But if you guys are new here, want to show support to the channel, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We're on the goal to 10K. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it before 2022, but if we do it before 2022, that would be awesome. I'd love that. That'd be super cool and stuff, but we'll see what happens. Maybe this video will pop off. So let's start this tier list because it's a tier list and I know a lot of you guys like tier lists. By the way, I'm wearing a Veloce shirt because I won one in a giveaway once. I didn't buy it. I got it sent to me. So first up we have Fernando Alonso, and he finished 10th in the standings, I believe that was 7 points ahead of Esteban Ocon in his season. I mean, he did pretty well. He had a podium in Qatar, which was pretty dope. He started off quite slow, but that's to be expected because, you know, he was out of the sport for 2 years. So I'm going to give him a good season. I don't think it was particularly great. I mean, his defense against Lewis Hamilton in Hungary was great, and his drive in Qatar was obviously outstanding. But other than that, I mean, he was consistent. So I'm going to leave him in the good category because great and almost perfect are like really good seasons. Next up is Valtteri Bottas. Tough year for Bottas. I mean, he did have more poles than Hamilton, I believe, or at one point he did. So, very good qualifying, race pace. When you're in that Mercedes and at the halfway point of the season, you're not even in the top 4 in the in the actual driver standings. That's pretty sad. I think it was a meh season from Bottas. He did have a really good performance in Turkey to get, you know, a nice win there, but I believe that was his only win, so that's all I got to say for Bottas. He did finish P3 ahead of Sergio Perez, but I really think that that Mercedes car was probably a lot better than the Red Bull in the second half of the season, and plus he's been in that team since 2017, so, and this was Perez's first year in the Red Bull. Pierre Gasly. What a season from Pierre, finishing P9 in the standings, absolutely demolishing Yuki Tsunoda. And he beat both Alpines, which I think that Alpine was probably maybe not the better car, but at some tracks it certainly was. Pierre Gasly's definitely going to get a great rating from me. He had a fantastic season. He had a podium in Baku. He was in the pretty much top 6, like almost every single time in qualifying. Like, outstanding season for Pierre. Can't wait to see what he does next year, and who knows, maybe next year might be his last year in the AlphaTauri. We don't even know, but it might be. We're not sure though. Next up, Antonio Giovinazzi. Antonio. It really wasn't that good of a year. He got outscored by Kimi 10-3 in Kimi's retirement season after his 20th year in Formula 1. I know he constantly beat Kimi in qualifying, but I just got to put him in meh. Like, it was good qualifying. Like, he had good qualifyings, but he couldn't convert those in the races like Monza and what was it? He had a good qualifying in Monza for the sprint race, I believe. Even in Zandvoort, I think he took it to the next level after they said he wasn't, or after they were trying to decide who the next Alfa Romeo driver was going to be for next season. But yeah, it was just not the best season. I mean, I'm glad that he's going to Formula E, so he's not completely out of like the Formulas series and all that, but he's going to one of the worst teams. Hopefully he can outperform there. I do think he certainly has the talent, but he just needs to get a little bit better in race pace, in my opinion. Ooh, Lewis Hamilton. I mean, you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he had a great season, obviously. Like, you don't have a good season and not become like a title decider or whatever. So I don't think it was almost perfect. He certainly did make mistakes, like in Baku with tire magic, Imola, Silverstone. Monza was partially his fault. Saudi Arabia, partially his fault. And I'm going to give it great. I'm not going to put it anywhere lower. Like, it was a fantastic season. He absolutely dominated in the second half. Like, from Brazil to Saudi Arabia, like, he was on a whole different level. But I don't think it was almost perfect considering how many mistakes he made, which is very uncharacteristic of Lewis. Maybe just because this is the first title fight he's had since 2016. We're not really too sure, but I'm going to throw this in the great tier. But it could be argued that it could be almost perfect because it was a pretty good season. I mean, you don't take it to a title decider if you don't have a good year. Next up, we have Lance Stroll. He got actually beat up by Vettel, finished 13th in the driver standings, but I think it was a meh season for Lance. They really didn't showcase him that much. Definitely better than Bottas. Well, maybe not better than Bottas this season because, you know, Bottas did win a race, but he also won a Mercedes. But yeah, I think it was a meh season for Lance. I mean, you could also argue that it was okay. I mean, he wasn't great. He didn't really do anything that was like out of the ordinary besides in Monaco when he like rickrolled everybody. But besides that, it was just pretty meh for Lance. I mean, that Aston Martin was not a good car. Like, it started off well in the season, but then it just really fell off. So I'm going to give Lance Stroll a meh, but you can also throw him in the okay category if you want. And next up, we have Lando Norris, one of the breakout performances of the season, especially in the first half of the year. If this list was just strictly based on the first half, we got to give it almost perfect. But Lando Norris did fall off in the second half of the year. Still ended up finishing P6 in the standings, and I know a lot of it wasn't his fault. In the last 2-3 races, he had like 2 slow punctures that he had to pit, lost a lot of track position and everything. So I'm still going to give him an almost perfect season because he was almost perfect. And definitely the first one I want to put in this category because he had a great season, completely outclassed Daniel Ricciardo, who is what some people say a future world champion, or at least that's what they said back in the day. But yeah, Lando Norris definitely going to get an almost perfect, but he also could go in the great. I would say he's probably on the fringe between both just because of how not good he performed in the second half, but that also could be car related, track related, and he got very unlucky, so we're going to put him in almost perfect. Speaking of almost perfect, we have my favorite driver, complete bias here, Charles Leclerc. I mean, is it almost perfect or great? It's really in between both of these. I mean, he did have 2 poles, so that was what, the 3rd most or 4th most poles all season. He was in a Ferrari at that time, and that Ferrari wasn't even the 3rd best car. So that's quite impressive. I mean, he did bin it in Monaco, and he didn't get the race win or even the race start. So I'm going to throw Charles in almost perfect. I mean, there might be some bias here because I'm a Charles Leclerc fan, but it was a very good season for Charles. Actually, you know what? I'm going to throw it in great. He kind of sucked in the last race, which did lose him P5 in the driver standings, which kind of sucks. I was so mad, but also so happy for Carlos. He had a great season. I think next season Charles will probably be in the almost perfect category, probably with some other drivers that are on this list. But yeah, I'm gonna throw Charles in great. Oh man, it pains me to do that because his season was very good and I love watching him. I love watching him race, but I don't think it was as good as Lando's season. But maybe if he did finish P5, definitely I would have thrown him in almost perfect. But he did have a really bad race in Abu Dhabi, so just because of that, I'm gonna throw him in great, but definitely could be almost perfect. Nikita Mazepin. I don't know how he managed to do this, but he finished P21 in a 20-driver championship. And he didn't ever out-qualify Mick in terms of pure pace. Like, he did when Mick crashed, but other than that, he never beat Mick. Mazepin, I think, is going to be the first person to go into the stinky poopy category. I feel bad for putting anybody in this category, but Mazepin didn't have a good season. He was constantly so far off the back of Mick. And I know both of them didn't score points, but in 2 races, Kubica finished higher than him. So, Mazepin, buddy, hopefully next season that Haas is not a boat and you can do something. But I know it's hard when your car is just that bad. But maybe next season we'll see a different Nikita Mazepin. We'll see like a 2020 Formula 2 Mazepin. You know, an aggressive Mazepin that maybe will win a race. Who knows? Oh man, Nicholas Latifi, the guy who absolutely changed the course of the World Championship. Nicholas Latifi, I think it was actually an okay season. Scoring 7 points in a Williams is fantastic. I mean, he scored more points than George did in Hungary. Like, that was a great performance. And plus, he outqualified George 2 times this season. One in Brazil and in Abu Dhabi. Very impressive, because we all know that George is an absolute qualifying master. So Latifi, great. I mean, good season. Or it was an okay season. I mean, I don't see anything spectacular besides Hungary. I mean, I'm happy that he crashed in Abu Dhabi because it gave Max a championship to beat Lewis. But Latifi, you can have okay, maybe even good. I wouldn't say it's good, but I mean, he was fighting a Haas in Abu Dhabi. But you know what? Let's give it okay. Let's give it okay. Esteban Ocon. Honestly, it was a good season as well. Like, I think him and Fernando were really on par. They're definitely I think they were the closest driver pairing, maybe besides like Charles and Carlos. But in terms of qualifying, those two, Alonso and Ocon, were incredibly close. And I can't wait to see what they do next year. Like, if Alpine can give them a good car, like, I have the same vibes that like Charles and Carlos give off with Fernando and Ocon. Just Charles and Carlos are younger and more probably sustainable in the future, I would say. But Fernando and Ocon were a very good driver pairing, and they really worked well together. Like, in the beginning of the season, I thought there were going to be fireworks between the two, just because it's Fernando Alonso, but nothing really happened, and Alonso helped Ocon get a win. Ocon had a great end of the season too, finishing P4 in Saudi Arabia. Probably could have got P3 if he just took out Bottas' front wing or something. But yeah, it was a good season for Ocon, good season for Alonso too. So very happy for those two guys. Next up, we have Sergio Perez, and I think it was an okay season from Perez. It was his first season in a Red Bull, and as we know from Gasly and Albon, that Red Bull is incredibly hard to drive, unless your name is Max Verstappen and that car is built to make you win a championship, pretty much. But yeah, I'd say it was an okay season, definitely better than Latifi's. He did outqualify Max once in Imola, which, I mean, that's impressive, and his second race, he outqualified Max. So we were thinking, like, holy cow, Perez is like the real deal. But obviously after that, he never really outqualified Max, never really outraced Max. I mean, he won Baku because Max had a tire failure and Lewis forgot how to brake. But yeah, it was an okay season. I could give him good, just because of how absolutely masterful he defended in Abu Dhabi. Because that single-handedly probably won Max the championship, because then Lewis didn't have enough time to pit for soft tires when the safety car came out. But we're going to give Perez the okay rating, because why not? I mean, you can, if you want, you can make a 3-paragraph point-proof essay, whatever it's called, APA formatted, to put him in good. But I'm going to leave him in okay for now, but could be good if you want it to be. Kimi Raikkonen. Great season for Kimi, actually. His retirement season, obviously his qualifying pace isn't there anymore. Really hasn't really been there since, 2019, 18, maybe even 17, 16, when Vettel would always beat him. But yeah, I mean, it was okay. I didn't see anything great with his season. There was nothing like crazy like he did like in 2020 at the start of Portimao. He had an incredible start. Like, that was a great race. This year in Portimao, he crashed in the back of his teammate, he crashed into Sebastian Vettel in Austria. I mean, the focus, I guess, wasn't there, but still, he had a better season than Giovinazzi in terms of like race pace wise and all that. So I'm gonna give him okay. It wasn't spectacular, but it also wasn't like almost perfect, great, or good. I think that's fair for Kimi, and we're definitely gonna miss him in Formula One. Daniel Ricciardo. This is a tough one because he won a race, but that's about it. I think that was his only podium of the year, and Lando was also up there too. So that McLaren was just an absolute rocket ship in Monza. I don't think I can give him stinky poopy because he won a race, but I think it's just meh. It wasn't Daniel Ricciardo, if you know what I mean. Like, I know he's not the most adaptable driver, and when he joined Renault, it really took him a while to catch up. And at the end of the season, Ricciardo was getting closer to Lando, but it just wasn't that good. Like, I expected Ricciardo to be up there with Lando, Charles, and Carlos Sainz every single weekend, and he really wasn't. And he just didn't look like he had the confidence under braking like he normally does to make those moves, or even just in general. Hopefully next season with the new cars, Ricciardo can bounce back, have a great season. I mean, he could even be the running for the title. You never know. Like, people did bid him as a world champion or a future world champion at one point. But for now, I have to give Ricciardo a meh. I'm sorry, all you Australians out there. I'm sorry, but I'm sure you can agree. You can argue that it was an okay season because he won a race, but other than that, it's just meh for me. George Russell. Podium in a Williams. I mean, it was good. I don't think it was great. I think it was probably the top tier of good integrate. I mean, something like that. It was a good season for George Russell. He did kind of just slow down at the end of the year. I feel like his mind was more on the Mercedes than it actually was, you know, racing for Williams, as the Williams is kind of not the best team. But he had 16 points. He had 16 points in a Williams, which I would say is not a better car than that Alfa Romeo. Definitely not. I mean, maybe in terms of qualifying pace it was, but in terms of race pace, that Williams was nowhere near anything besides maybe like the Haas. I mean, you saw Latifi battling Mick Schumacher at the last race of the season. George, definitely a good season. Got a podium in a Williams. Made Q3 a bunch of times. Definitely a good season. I mean, I'm gonna actually screw it. I'm gonna throw him up in great because it was a good season, and I cannot wait to see what George does next year alongside Lewis Hamilton. Who knows? Maybe he'll even out-qualify Hamilton within a season. We'll see. Carlos Sainz. Man, what a season. Almost perfect for Carlos Sainz. He beat my boy Charles in his first year in Team Ferrari, or Scuderia Ferrari, whatever you want to call it. But absolutely incredible season. I'm so happy for Carlos. Obviously, you guys know I'm a big Charlie boy fan. But, I mean, Carlos, as long as Ferrari does well, I'm happy. Of course, if Charles wins, I'll be even more happy. But super happy for Carlos. He had a great season. Definitely had higher highs, but he also had a lot lower lows than Charles. Charles, I would say, was probably more consistent in terms of like race paces and finishing, because he finished a lot of P4s and he had one podium in Silverstone, which he should have won. I don't want to talk about it, but Carlos had an absolutely fantastic season. So happy that he's doing well in Ferrari, and I want to see what happens next season, because if they give Ferrari a good car, Carlos and Charles are going to be up there, and I mean, they're my pick to win the Constructors next season. Maybe not the driver's title. We'll see what happens, but Carlos 100% had an almost perfect season. I'm maybe going to throw him ahead of Lando because he finished ahead of Lando, and the car was definitely not there in the first half of the season. But then, once Carlos got more confident, like he was pretty much unstoppable. He started out qualifying Leclerc, which is something not many people can do because Leclerc is an absolute qualifying master. But we'll see what happens next season. I'm excited. Mick Schumacher. This is a tough one. I really don't know where to put him. In okay? I'm going to throw him in okay. I don't really know where to throw him because it's so hard to judge the Haas boys just because that car was so bad. Like, I know Mick made it into Q2 twice, but one of the times he crashed and caused a red flag, and then the other time in Turkey it was kind of like raining and all that, or it was like Turkey qualifying, so the track is just dead and whatever. I don't even know what to describe that Turkey track. It's just like an ice rink. But yeah, it was an okay season. Mick had a few crashes. I mean, you never want to crash in final practice 3 because then your car's destroyed for qualifying and you can't put in a lap. But he was consistently better than Mazepin all season. And maybe if the Haas can have a decent car, we can maybe see like Mick Schumacher battle a bunch of midfield guys. We'll see what happens. Hopefully the Haas is decent. And plus, it's going to be Mick Schumacher's second year in a category, so is he going to win the world championship? I guess we'll have to see. Yuki Tsunoda. I got to throw him in the stinky poopy category. I mean, it definitely wasn't as bad as Mazepin's season, but it wasn't good either. Like, in Bahrain, he was incredible, and in Abu Dhabi, he was incredible. But other than that, he wasn't anywhere near Pierre Gasly, and I have to throw him in sneaky poopy. Like, literally the only time he out-qualified Pierre Gasly was in Abu Dhabi, probably the track he has the most experience at. And I feel like next season he will have a much better year as he is familiar with all these tracks, and he's literally raced there now. Like, half the tracks we went to this year, everyone's like, oh, it's Yuki's first time racing there. Like, yeah, of course he's going to suck, but, I mean, as a Formula 1 driver, the pinnacle of motorsports, like, you got to adapt. So I'm going to throw him in sneaky poopy, but it definitely could be meh too. I mean, it could be meh just because of what happened in Abu Dhabi. He finished P4, which was a great result for him. But yeah, I'm going to throw him in sneaky poopy. Next up, we have Max Verstappen. And I know you guys hate it when I say Verstappen, but what do you want me to say? Verstappen? I don't know how you want me to say it, but that's just how I say it. Sorry. Max Verstappen, 100% almost perfect. Definitely the best driver all season, if you ask me. He broke the record for most podiums in a season without even finishing in 3rd place. Like, that is incredible. And he won the championship. I think he deserved it more than Lewis deserved the championship. But also, you could say I'm biased because I don't like Lewis Hamilton. But I think he did deserve the championship more than Lewis. I mean, Lewis deserved it as well, too. 100%, Lewis definitely deserved to win in Abu Dhabi. But I'm happy Max won the title because he thoroughly deserved it. And he had an incredible season. Like, the only reason he didn't lock up the title like a couple weeks ago was because he got taken out in Silverstone and Bottas had to go bowling in Hungary. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Max had an absolutely incredible season. Probably my title favorite going into next season as well, but I don't really know. It's hard to tell, obviously, because the cars are different. But I'll be making a predictions video in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. And last, certainly not least, we have Sebastian Vettel, finishing P12 in the standings. I mean, pretty good season. He got 2 podiums because Hungary clearly counted. I'm gonna throw him in good. Like, it wasn't great. It wasn't almost perfect. He got beaten by Lance Stroll in qualifying a couple times, but it was still a good season from Sebastian. You know, it was his first season not using a Ferrari engine in how many years? Since, what, 2014? And by then, back then he used a Renault engine, which is, I mean, it's a Renault engine. So now he's using a Mercedes engine, got used to a whole new Mercedes car. So Sebastian Vettel, and we also know that Aston Martin was not a good car this season. Like, it was bad. So Sebastian Vettel, gonna throw him in good. I mean, you can maybe throw him in okay as well, because he's not like the Seb of old. But we still love Seb. We all love Seb. Everyone loves Seb. But with that guys, that is gonna be my tier list of the 2020 driver rankings. If I were to rank Rubber Kubica, obviously gotta throw him in almost perfect because he's a GOAT. But with that being said, guys, I hope you did enjoy. If you want to see more content like this from me, then please go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. And with that being said, everybody, comment down below how you guys would rank this. I'll leave the link to this tier list in the description. And with that being said, everybody, hope you all enjoyed and have a great day.